Alright, so, you ready to get started on this?
Good to go.
Okay. Hi everyone, and welcome to Deadhouse. We are excited to continue the Monster Blood saga. Today is going to be Monster Blood 2. And oh boy, howdy, can I not wait to get into this.
I am prepared for Mandy's rant. This is going to be good.
I'm so mad. I'm so mad at this book. I'm so mad at this book. And if you hear noises in the background, that is the ever sweet 10-year-old Milo, who still acts like a puppy.
Yes.
So we pick up with our, no, we are going to have to wait for this to stop.
On the coffee table.
It's just funny. He just needed it to be on the grinding metal.
Yes, he did.
That's all.
It didn't squeak, so it was his only other option, really.
Yeah, I mean, it had to make a sound.
Sorry.
So we pick back up
Yep.
with our main two characters, Evan and Andy, which is great. Right now, it's just Evan.
Yeah.
So did you want to talk about Evan and his new school in Atlanta?
Well, the overall feeling that you get from the story is that it sucks. He's got a teacher that's picking on him, Mr. Murphy, and he's got the attention of the school bully, Conan, and it seems like he can't do anything right. And he's having nightmares because of the monster blood, which nobody really believes him actually exists. So he's not in a happy place.
Right from the get-go, we have a dream sequence.
Yes.
He has fallen asleep in class. Who hasn't done that in their life? And when he's fallen asleep, he's had another nightmare. I mean, they call this daydreaming. I wouldn't really call it daydreaming. It's just dreaming. He just happened to fall asleep in the day.
Yeah.
And the whole first chapter, which is only a couple pages long, is him having a dream about Trigger, getting the monster blood again, and continuing to grow, and not stopping to grow, and picking him up and trying to bury him alive.
Yes. Which is
fairly horrifying.
It is, and dogs like to bury things, so kind of accurate of what a giant dog would do.
Andy comes for a visit because she's going to be attending that school for a while. Her parents are gone away, and she has to stay with her aunt. And I'm assuming they picked her aunt in Atlanta because it would be close to someone who was a friend that she would know at that school. So that's nice. I loved her fashion. Can we just, like, I know this is away from the plot. This is how mad the story made me, because I'm, like, trying to stay
This is the plot. This girl's unique color choices that look like the rainbow just threw up on her every single day is amazing.
But it doesn't look like the rainbow threw up. This is what I love about the fashion. It's super bright and neon, but, like, they're colors that work together, or, like, she's got, like, a black and white striped vest at one point with, like, neon blue shorts. And, like, she's always into the bike shorts, which I like. I like the bike short look.
I just think the way that she's described, she's wearing a lot of bright, bold color combinations that a lot of people
wouldn't typically pair.
Right. Like, they go together, and you see patterns with those colors or different outfits of those color choices, but the way that she's described wearing them is just, she's bold, she's here, and she does not care.
But it's awesome.
It is.
And it's very reminiscent of, like, clothing combinations that we ourselves have made.
In the 90s.
In the 90s. So it's awesome. So this is book actually 18 of the series, Monster Blood 2. It was published much later, about 2 years later, in 1994, April of 1994. I understand that these books are 2 years apart.
Yes.
And that a lot of books were written in a short amount of time in order to pump these out. But it's like it was ghost written by someone who had never read Monster Blood.
And we start.
Because, oh my gosh, let's just establish that these are likable characters. They have some flawed, unlikable traits. Evan starts out quite bratty. But by the end of it, they learn better communication. And this is one of the main themes of that book. It's about learning to communicate and about giving people a chance even when it feels like you can't communicate with them, and about being more aware of your surroundings and letting people in. And it's very much about growing into being a teenager and learning to interact with other people. And these two characters grow a lot and become very good friends by the end of it. And they were individuals who were usually on their own. All of this character growth is sort of gone. Evan reverts to being weird and bratty. Oh my god, bratty.
He has a sense of innocence to him, though, because he keeps on...
He has a sense of innocence to him in the first book, and he learns that maybe he was thinking a little bit too much about himself, and the monster blood kind of forces him to think more about consequences and other things. Whereas in this book, he's still so focused on him, and it's kind of aggravating. It's also actually about the monster blood. The first book was about interpersonal connections and communication and growing older, and, you know, especially with, like, where his aunt was a witch, and it was about her being accepted because she was a witch, and, you know, she had disabilities, and people learning to accept her for who she was, and her trying to have a friend, and that turning out to be somebody evil, and like there's a lot there about taking chances and building relationships, and none of it had anything to do with the monster blood. It was incidental, and it was set up so well.
But this one was different.
This one was actually about the monster blood, so everything we knew about it being cursed is gone.
Yeah, the magic is just missing.
It's the monster blood itself, and it's not a curse that was put on it, which was the point of the entire first book.
That's why it grew, because it was cursed.
Not because it was a magical object in and of itself.
No.
Whereas here, it's a magical object in and of itself. But it references the first book and says, oh, but it disappeared at the end, and oh, like, the glob went back to normal before it disappeared. But apparently some of it was left inside the can, and being in its original can without exposure to air made it grow super slowly. So apparently it had been growing slowly inside this whole time. So Andy thought she was giving him a reminder by giving him the empty can. But really, when they opened it, it had grown, and then because they exposed it to air, it already duplicated and was like coming out of the container. So that completely throws everything about what we know about the monster blood just out the window.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be cursed. Without this curse, it's supposed to be like a little can of Play-Doh or something, just harmless.
Or like old slime, Gax, whatever.
Anything. But now, where it had that curse, the curse made it grow. So that aspect in this novel was missing. What was making it grow? There was nothing.
There was no reason for it to grow. Again, this has now become a magical object in and of itself, and it's like the characters themselves have forgotten that it was cursed.
Yeah.
Like, what is up with that? And sorry guys, I know it's distracting, the curtain moves, but we do have active pets, so like, bear with us.
Sorry.
But yeah, it's so ludicrous. The whole thing is so ludicrous. We lose all of that good character development. They try to bring it back and make Evan a bit more responsible, but the whole time he's still just so bratty and mean. He's actually mean. They do this thing where he's constantly drawing attention to and making fun of the professor, even though it's in his mind. He's always doing it, and it's like to a point where it seems kind of mean. And the hamster, I love animals, all animals.
Yes.
And if you're not into rodents, that's cool. I get that you're not into rodents.
But you wouldn't do anything intentionally to cause them any sort of harm.
He unreasonably hates this hamster.
He does.
you get one tiny glimpse of, oh, but he is cute.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else he says and does before that one tiny point, and especially after that point, is like, what the hell, dude? Like, it is too intense. First thing he says is, oh, they run around in wheels like total jerks. Okay, that one doesn't make sense. What the hell? Running around in a wheel makes you a jerk? I don't... Then Cuddles escapes, and when he gets out, he's like constantly talking about how stupid the thing is.
Mm-hmm.
He daydreams about throwing it out the window instead of feeding it or cleaning the cage in the first place. It's just so ridiculous. Like, and the way he dreams about like flattening it like a pancake or having it get run over while it's escaping, like, I really start to wonder. And then when the bully takes it,
Yeah.
he makes this comment about how he pictures in his head how this would normally cheer him up, but it wasn't because of the situation. Then he wishes he could just stick the hamster in an oven. And it's like, is this kid a sociopath? Like, what is wrong with him? It's weird.
This is supposed to be an animal-loving kid because he has like a dog that he cares greatly for. They're lucky they're cute.
Right?
But he doesn't have the same love for the hamster, and it is weird.
It is weird to a point that is disturbing. Like, who idly fantasizes about sticking an animal in an oven?
Right?
It's terrible.
That was
And
hard to read.
I don't like it, and I don't like that character choice was made.
No. He seemed to be, I don't even know what the word or the phrase would be, but like, I don't know if his new take on life was because he wasn't getting along well in his school, like because he was being picked on.
But why would you take that out to the extent that he did?
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to wish harm on another
No.
creature because of that. Like,
You wouldn't
not
want-
to that level.
You wouldn't want to go to school, or you might say your teacher is a jerk. But you
and
wouldn't
like,
go into that far detail unless you were really...
and you wouldn't on a harmless animal like that.
No.
And I know it was his punishment to clean out the cage, but like, I could see him hating the teacher for that. I could see him being resentful about having to clean out the animal's cage and not liking the animal as much,
Yeah.
but not wishing harm the way he did. It was weird.
Mm-hmm.
It was really weird, and I didn't like it. Halfway through the book, and they're like hiding the can, and they're trying to steal it back from the bully.
Yeah, there's some breaking and entering going on here. There's theft, there's breaking and entering, there's harmed animals. Like, this kid is growing up in a quite different world than what he was being portrayed as being in when he was living with his witchy aunt.
Yeah, and I understand that the point of Mandy's character is that she makes him more bold and come out of his shell. Because despite being like stubborn and bratty, he was like a shy kid.
Mm-hmm.
So she helps him be more brave. And I understand the need to break in and get the monster blood because it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And they don't want the bully to have access to that, not believing or knowing the real history about the monster blood.
Mm-hmm.
And now that it's its own thing, and it had nothing to do with the curse, then fine.
Yeah, is that like part of the story is missing though?
Yeah, it is, because it was never about the monster blood.
Yeah.
So the fact that it came back, I expected, or started growing again or whatever, I expected there to be references to, like, you know, oh, it seemed like a cat darted across the street, and it be a minor mention thing that you don't notice until later, or, oh, there are some cats in an alley out back, or, like, I expected background attention being drawn to random stray cats as a way to say maybe one of these cats is Sarah Beth and she's using the monster blood curse again.
Or even Andy talking about one of the books that she may have read in Sarah Beth's house about the occult and saying that she picked up this book and started reading it and that can was there and unintentionally maybe she
was trying to understand how it happened in the first place so they could reverse it, and she unintentionally recursed it or something.
Right, but there was nothing.
Nothing to link it to the first book whatsoever other than the fact that it was a can of monster blood.
Mm-hmm.
It also throws the whole metal theory out the window.
It does.
Because it specifically states that the can is plastic, which I don't think it did in the first book.
No, I don't think it
I'm
did.
not really sure. It just said it was a can or tin in a general way, so you could have thought it was metal.
Mhm.
Whereas this one specifically said it's a plastic can. So, okay, cool, it's a plastic can. They also specifically said that there were no ingredients or anything on it. Whereas in the first book, that's how it got cursed in the first place, was she pretended to read the ingredients, but was actually muttering a curse.
Yep.
So,
I picked up on that too.
what the heck? It's seriously like you never even read or understood the first book. And everything then becomes about the chase of the monster blood. And it doesn't become about their relationship together as friends. I mean, you see some of them interacting well together, but it's not the same kind of like personal growth, because you got so much growth from the first book. You expected more growth here, and you expected more understanding with the students. I even buy that she did the prank anyway, for Cuddles to grow, not realizing he would get quite that big.
But they talked about giving this hamster a very small piece of the monster blood. And in the novel, it says that she gave Cuddles a spoonful. Like, to me, that seems just a little bit more than what Evan may have even thought about to begin with. Or
I don't think Andy would have thought about that in the first place normally, because yes, she's a little more bold and brash and like impulsive, but she seems like if they had agreed on the tiny amount, as long as she was still getting to pull the prank she wanted to pull, and because she'd seen how dangerous the monster blood was before, I fully believe her character would have only given him a tiny amount.
Yes.
Now,
so that didn't really jive for me.
it still could have grown out of control, and they not expected that to happen, and the prank go too far. But
They said the hamster was given a spoonful, and to me, I was like, no, they can't do that, because that's not the amount that they agreed to.
I thought the wheel idea was a good idea.
Yep.
That didn't work, obviously.
That became a projectile pretty fast.
But it was good to see them thinking like that and coming up with like clever ideas, even if they didn't work in practicality. I also thought it was weird that he would just ingest the monster blood recklessly like that and become large.
Because he was so against it in the first one. Like, that just seemed completely out of character.
Yeah.
It seemed reckless.
I understand that he was trying to be braver and get braver, but it doesn't really show him getting braver and standing up to things
No.
the way that you would expect it, because the bullying thing sort of resolved itself in the first book. So when you put even more emphasis on the bully problem in this book, and you make it like him against a very specific bully right from the beginning, you kind of feel like the personal growth here is going to be he's learning to stand up to things and to do it in the right way. Because like doing it with Cuddles and giving Cuddles the monster blood, they very quickly realized was the wrong thing. So I think he would have put more thought into it first, and in how they were going to reverse the monster blood and get people out of the classroom, rather than just, oh, I'll make myself giant and contain him.
And that's another thing I noticed too. Like, people were flocking to this classroom to see what was going on, when if Mr. Murphy was a responsible teacher at all, he would have ran out of the classroom after he got all the kids out and shut the door and let Cuddles in there to do his thing.
Yeah, he
and
would have
try to figure it out.
evacuated.
But no!
He was like trying to be like a lion tamer. I think they were trying to show a flaw in his character where he was more concerned with the glory of things than actually, you know, taking care of a situation properly. Because he always made a show about giving Evan a punishment in front of everyone and doing it in front of everyone. So there was an element of glory and humiliation there.
If he did that in today's time, he wouldn't have to worry about answering his phone because it was ringing off the hook. He would have a lineup of parents raging in the hallway, ready to tear a strip off of him for endangering his kids. Or their kids.
For not thinking about evacuating them first.
Yeah.
And foremost.
Which is part of his job as a teacher, is to remove the minors from the situation that he's responsible for.
Yeah, but instead he's like, oh, maybe I can tame it, and then that way I can, you know, get it under control and still go on TV and be famous. And it was
a mess.
It was a mess.
The way that Conan was portrayed, like the bully, he was like a dominant role throughout the book. And understanding going through the public school system, bullies are there, but I think the emphasis of these two Monster Blood books, that the bullies are more on show than they should be. Like Conan had a buddy that stuck up with him, and he had Mr. Murphy in his back pocket. Like Mr. Murphy was always there to catch Evan retaliating to the bully. Like the bully would never be the bunt of any repercussions.
I think that was kind of important though. Like with the first kid, it was showing, oh, well, he felt entitled to the neighborhood. Like it was his neighborhood, his block. He was the big kid. So, and this one, they're trying to show a different type of entitlement because, you know, his parents stuck up for him and gave him his own way a bit too much.
And he was
like,
bigger
not
and
that they
stronger.
didn't want him to do well and do his homework, because it showed that, and like they were loving parents, but they did things like, oh, let him have this cake and ice cream dessert thing, and then we'll worry about the other thing first, instead of doing that now while he's having
His
dessert.
yeah.
Like, and they were just out somewhere, I'm assuming for supper, so he came home to a dessert. Anyway, it's all very,
Yeah.
it seemed like he was maybe a little bit babied in a way, and like coddled, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And he was just intelligent, like he did well in school. I liked that it wasn't the dumb bully trope, that it shows that like anybody can be a bully if they make that decision. Sometimes bullies are bullies because they come from poor backgrounds and bad environments and they don't know how else to behave. So I'm just saying that as a you should have compassion for people kind of thing, but also we know specifically this bully did it because he had power and he got kicks out of it.
Yeah.
He came from a good house, so there was no excuse like that way that he had maybe a troubled background. It was just that he enjoyed doing it. Kind of feel for Evan, but at the same time, Evan was written so poorly at the beginning that I kind of felt like he kind of deserved it a little bit.
He was naive too for falling for certain actions repeatedly. Like the handshake, he fell for that 3 times. Like the first time, fine. The second time, he should have just walked away. But I think that's poor character development on his behalf.
Yeah, and I think they were trying to make a point that he was still so naive, because this is why everybody thought he was weird in the first place, because he told everybody about the monster blood, and Andy was like, well, why would you do that? Don't kids think you're weird?
Like, didn't see that coming.
He was a very naive character, and you don't see any growth from that. You see him proving that monster blood was real, and everybody becomes terrified.
Yeah.
There's no real resolution to anything. There's no real character growth anywhere. It just sort of fixes itself. The monster blood just stops all of a sudden because of the expiry date on the can. What did that have to do with anything?
It just seemed too simple.
It did. And then his teacher's giving him cuddles as a reward. A reward! Like, why was he not in trouble for getting the monster blood out in the first place? Because obviously if it was real and he was the only one that knew about it,
They didn't understand it, so...
it had to be him though, right? It had to come from him.
They washed over that completely.
A better conversation at the end of that would have been, hey, thanks for owning up to this problem you created and doing the right thing and trying to fix it, but, you know, you're still in trouble for having done this thing. See me in detention, but I am proud of you for doing what needed to be done.
I think all of his hamster responsibilities should have been dropped at the door. And parents are trying to think whether they can get their child a pet. And it might start off like a goldfish. You can keep the goldfish alive, then we'll look at getting like a puppy or a larger tank or a rodent or something. But if they act irresponsible and something happens to that animal, they don't get another one. Like, that concept was just...
Also, it seemed like the teacher was more so now afraid of the hamster and was giving it to him more so out of fear and was doing a reward excuse. But either way, it didn't come off well, and I didn't like it. It also left room for the possibility of more monster blood at the end.
Yeah, the cliffhanger. The Goosebumps cliffhanger.
The first book, it was more of a cliffhanger because you didn't know where the monster blood went.
Well, it vanished.
And it could still be cursed or be cursed again.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know enough about it. We still don't know enough about it after a second book. And at the end, her parents find monster blood somewhere and send it to her.
So book 1 it disappeared because of magic, and in book 2 it disappeared because of expiry date. So how's book 3 going to make the monster blood disappear?
And it's being sent to them in another can. And again, this should just randomly be a can of old expired slime.
Yeah.
That's all it should be. Because why would it be anything else? It's not even connected to the original cursed object anymore.
No, so there's nothing
we've
on it.
moved so far away from the original concept that this shouldn't even be a concern.
And then it disappears. The can just disappears and the hamster is gone.
Yeah, at the end the hamster has gotten out and they're like, oh, where's the other can of monster blood? Oh no, maybe it ate it. But like, would it matter? Does it make a difference?
It shouldn't.
This completely undoes the original book entirely, and that's why I'm so mad. Because it's partly well written, there are some good things in there. The story structure is fine, it reads well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so mad at the lack of character development, any real conclusions, and the fact that it's totally not the same story at all.
It doesn't flow coherently from the first one in the series. So as a child with a child's attention span, reading the first book when it came out 2 years prior and reading this one now, you're probably not making those connections.
Probably not.
Unless you read them back to back or within like a close frame and reading's your thing.
And this book was part of a box set that I had of 4.
Okay.
So I know I read it. I know I read it as a kid because all of the books that I owned in the original series, I read.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember this book. I honestly could not remember any of the plot, anything. I think I read it and hated it and just like put it out of my mind.
I know I didn't read it because it wasn't part of my series that I had. And I don't have it in my collection, so I had to go and find a Kobo file, the EPUB file, and read that.
Yes, you did like the digital download.
Yeah.
And I had the actual book. It's still the book I had when I was a kid. All the ones I had as a kid, because I used to take them back and forth to school, have my child handwriting right in the front there with my name on it, so he'd know it was my book. And it's just, I really couldn't. I was reaching to try to remember, whereas the first book came back to me really well. And like a number of details I remembered. But this book, like absolutely nothing. And I understand why. It's entirely forgettable.
Yeah, you had it blocked.
Yeah, I just put it right out of there.
Done. Yeah. How do you feel about going on to the third book?
Not good.
Not
because it's going to be about monster blood again.
Yeah, so Monster Blood 3 is the next one. We have this book. We both do.
We both have copies of this one.
Yep, so...
and I want there to be more growth, and there's going to be a tease of that, but it's not going to happen. Here's the synopsis for book 3. It's the slime that never dies. Evan can't stand babysitting his genius cousin Kermit. Kermit refuses to play video games. He won't even play Frisbee. All he likes to do is hang out in the basement doing strange experiments and playing mean practical jokes on Evan and his friend Andy.
Here enters our bully.
But now Andy's found something that will teach Kermit a lesson once and for all. It's green, it's slimy, and it comes in a can marked Monster Blood. So they refined the can she was given from her parents or something? I don't know. I don't understand.
And after all they've gone through with this Monster Blood, they're going to give it to somebody else. They haven't learned their lesson
Who
at all.
likes to do experiments and play mean practical jokes with them? Like, if you're going to use science for mean practical jokes, I don't think Monster Blood would be a thing you would be giving this person.
No. Not at all.
And with everything that just happened in the last book, trying to solve all of their bully problems with the school bully and the teacher by playing a practical joke and using monster blood and having that go wrong, you would think they wouldn't be so quick to do it again.
What kids?
But that's not a good enough excuse, because character growth is important.
Yeah, and I don't know how I feel about going to this one. I'm going to try to keep an open mind, and hopefully it's written better than the second one.
Yeah, I think we were both pretty disappointed in the second Monster Blood after being so hyped, because the first one was so good.
Yeah.
And you had such good character representation and growth, and yeah.
I think the theme, though, of having a child bully, though, is interesting because it creates an idea of what the school system is and where it lacks. Like, yeah, not all kids are going to get along, but to have that as, like, a dominant character in each of these 3 books so far, I think that says a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, kids do have a tendency to pick on each other, but like the first one was because someone felt entitled, and the second one was because he enjoyed the power it gave him. So this third bully, it seems like it's because he's not being taught enough, because he is more intelligent, and so he gets bored, and this is what he does with his boredom as an outlet.
Yeah, I think that says a lot. Like, these books came out in the 90s, and these are still problems in today's schools. So,
yeah, and it's still an issue that needs addressing. And I think it's interesting that it's taking so many different looks at bullies. And like I said, that they're not just like your stereotypical you see in a lot of movies and other media, like dumb bully.
Or they're going through scenarios or dealing with things that they're not familiar with, and
they're taking out their frustrations that way.
Or they're testing their boundaries that way. It doesn't seem like any of that innocence is behind it. It's for power, it's for territory, it's for boredom. It's not for anything that could be considered like a part of growing up.
Yeah, it is trying to relate it in that way, but it's also trying to make you think of broader themes.
Yeah.
And things that people fight over on a larger scale.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
Territory, power.
And that's like an adult perspective on
on
the childhood.
Childhood.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. A tiny nitpicky thing, but I did notice the not like other girls line was thrown out in this book.
I knew that was going to set you off. I read it and I'm like, uh-oh.
I hate the implication of that, because it implies that you have to be inherently masculine or different, or there's something wrong with being feminine or a girl to make you make the point it's not like other girls. And I understand in the context of this book, Evan was casually saying she's not like other girls I've met, but the implication is still there that girls act a certain way, and Andy didn't. Yeah. And up to this point in the Goosebumps book that we've read, I realize this is book 18, and so we've jumped ahead a bit. That was never an issue or brought up. Girls were kids, boys were kids, everybody was just kids. And it was great, and we just finished saying with the last book how refreshing it was to see yourself in these characters and to just see kids being kids and it not be a gender thing. And then to have that line just come out in the book sort of solidified it as being a gender thing, and I did not appreciate that.
And this is something that you felt very strongly about for a very long time. Like, since grade school, you've been fighting like the gender ideas, like girls are supposed to be.
We liked horror, both of us, and we liked, and like I was very tomboyish, and we liked things and did things that weren't expected of girls, but that our families and like our other close friends were very accepting of, obviously.
Like horror posters on our walls, and
like we'd like to get together and watch horror movies, and then we'd probably play Polly Pocket or Littlest Pet Shop later. Like,
and video games, we're all into video games, and you had your Wolverine shirt.
I did, and I was the button-up one with the full pattern. You know, the one that came out in the mid-90s.
Yeah. So like, having that just thrown into the book, I knew that was going to be a topic.
Yeah, well, I mean, how could it not be? Because that was one of the good things about Goosebumps, was that everybody was into it, and kids were kids, and it didn't matter. Like, it wasn't weird that you were a girl that was into like horror or giant fighting monsters or Power Rangers. It was just like,
Power Rangers.
Right?
I love Power Rangers.
Everybody. That's how I became friends with Joanne. Everybody loved Power Rangers. But it was a thing where it wasn't like, I remember getting comments from other people where it was like, oh, you're a girl that likes that. And I'm sitting there thinking, all the girls I'm friends with like Power Rangers. Everybody likes Power Rangers.
What are you talking about? This is not a thing?
Yeah. So, I don't know. It was kind of weird to have that, like, just thrown in all of a sudden and it was such a throwaway line. And then it was just left at that. There was no expansion.
It was filler. And it was filler to make like a poke at somebody that
didn't
feel
need
strongly.
to be there.
Yeah.
That's it. That's my rant on Monster Blood 2.
The next rant by Mandy will be about Monster Blood 3.
Probably. But maybe we'll like it better. Maybe the characters will get stronger. Maybe there will be better character development.
Yeah.
We will wait and see, but I really hope it gets better because these books were so good up to that point.
And maybe there will be an explanation about the monster blood. Maybe there will be like a cat or something.
I doubt it. But maybe they'll try to explain it.
I'm trying to be optimistic.
So September 30th is going to be Monster Blood 3. After that, we are going to do Monster Blood 4.
Yes.
And then we are, maybe if we can get ebook versions, because we have to get ebook versions for Monster Blood 4 as well, we might try doing a little bonus thing for the book club and do Monster Blood for breakfast, which is a weird one, but we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, we'll try to bring that to you guys.
Let everybody know how they can contact you on the internet for the book club.
I'm on Twitter with coffee_with_Jen. That's Jen with one N.
And you can reach me at a glitter macaroon on Twitter with 1 T and 2 O's. You can also reach us in the comments here on Facebook, on YouTube.
Yep.
You can get it on my Facebook page for the channel. All the links are going to be below. When you do reach out to us on Twitter, be sure to hashtag it with GBC Ghost Next Door so that we can easily find all of your comments.
Yeah, we look forward to hearing from you all and ranting with us.
And please let us know what you thought about this plot. We were going to come up with like individual interesting questions for it, but this plot was just so crazy and this book so... we felt underdeveloped that this is enough to talk about.
We had to cut the questions so we could rant.
Or rather, hear your rant, because we want to know what you think about these plot developments and about how the characters have lacked development.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And until next time,
readers beware.
You're in for a scare.